everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a case that is very interesting to me. I have just been fascinated with it since I heard about it. It is the disgusting case of Christopher Watts.
We did it again. I like that shirt. Really?
Really?
That's awesome. So pink means...
That's just the test.
I know. It just says the pink is going to be girls.
I don't know. Just the test.
That's awesome.
On the morning of August 13th, 2018, Shan'ann Watts came home from a business trip from Arizona. Shan'ann Watts worked for a company called Lavelle Thrive. It's kind of one of those, for lack of a better word, pyramid scheme type things that basically you're in sales, you sell it on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram or whatever. I'm not very familiar with it. I've never done one before, but I have used like It Works, and it did work at that point. Anyway, moving on. So Shan'ann worked for Thrive, and she was coming home from a business trip. She went upstairs, went to bed. The next morning, her husband, Chris Watts, went to work, and she was still in bed. And their two daughters, Bella and Celeste, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste, were asleep in their rooms when Christopher Watts left for work that morning. Moving forward, later that day, Shan'ann was reported missing by her colleague and friend, Nicole Atkinson. Nicole Atkinson had been concerned about Shan'ann and the girls because Shan'ann was constantly on her phone, and that's how she made her money. That's literally how she ran her business, was through her phone. And she was always home with her phone. Nicole Atkinson was aware that Shan'ann had a doctor's appointment at 10 a.m. the next day. Nicole Atkinson knew that Shan'ann would not have missed this doctor's appointment because Shan'ann was 12 weeks pregnant with a little boy they were going to name Neko. Now, Nicole even went over to Shan'ann's house and looked in the front door and saw that Shan'ann's shoes were there. She looked in the garage and saw that Shan'ann's car was there with the girls' car seats in the car. She knocked on the door. She called Shan'ann. Nobody answered. That's why she reported them missing. While Nicole Atkinson was at the front door looking in or whatever, Christopher Watts got an alert on his doorbell cam to his phone and was like, hey, what's up? What's going on? And Nicole even said, hey, your wife's not answering. And that's when Chris Watts said, oh, she took the girls on a play date. She'll be back later. That didn't sit right with Nicole. And I'm so glad that it did, because honestly, this case would have never been solved without Nicole Atkinson. Honestly, she's the only person that really got this in motion because, I mean, Chris Watts seemed like such a nice guy, right? But I digress. After Nicole Atkinson had called the police, Frederick, Colorado Police Department came to do a welfare check around 1:40 p.m. Chris, who had arrived later from work, had let them in and discussed with police officers the last whereabouts that he had seen of Shan'ann. I really don't know how to use phrasing in these videos. I'm still learning. During the welfare check, Chris gave them permission to search the house and look around and, you know, whatever. He was very cooperative. He said, yeah, go ahead. Look, do your thing, man. It was when the searchers discovered Shan'ann's purse, her cell phone, her wedding ring, her keys, and her car, which had been in the garage with the girls' car seats. Shan'ann would have never left the house to bring the girls anywhere without the girls' car seats. They needed them. Shan'ann was a good mom. She wouldn't have gone anywhere without them. So fast forward, on August 14th, Christopher Lee Watts decided to give interviews. Member stations KMGH-TV and KUSA-TV outside his house pleading for his family's return. So in these interviews, Chris just doesn't seem right.
Watts, W-A-T-T-S.
Wow. What's going on right now around your house?
Right now it's, you got K-9 units, the sheriff's department. Everybody's like, they're doing their best right now to figure out like if they can get a scent, see where they went. If they went on foot, they went in a car, or they went somewhere. And right now it's just like they've been on point. They're going through the house trying to get a scent, and hopefully they can pick something up to where it's going to lead to something.
What happened?
She came home from the airport 2 a.m. and I left around 5:15. She was still here, and like about 12:10 in that afternoon, her friend Nicole showed up at the door. Like I had texted Shan'ann a few times that day, called her, say, you know, but she never got back to me. But she wasn't getting back to any of her people as well. Shan'ann, Shan'ann.
What's your kids' name?
Bella and Celeste.
How do you spell Celeste?
Celeste.
How old is she?
It wasn't like an argument. We had an emotional conversation, but I'll leave it at that. But I just want them back. I just want them to come back. And if they're not safe right now, that's what's tearing me apart. Because if they are safe, they're coming back. But if they're not, this has got to stop. Like somebody has to come forward.
He stares. It's like there's like a dullness in his eyes. Have you ever watched an anime and after something tragic happens, they just get this like fog over their anime eyes and they're just like, come on. That's how he was, but he was talking as if he was missing his children and his wife. He kept saying the same thing over again. I just want them back. I just want them back. And if they're okay, they're coming back. And if they're not okay, well, that's the not knowing part. That's the not knowing part. He's just a disgusting human being. I can't. Investigators with cadaver dogs and search dogs could be heard on the property during the interview. So Chris, the whole time during the interview, he's holding himself and rocking back and forth. And he's just so uncomfortable the whole time. You can just tell. Every time a dog barks, he just is like, hilarious. Watts was arrested on August 15th, 2018. According to the arrest affidavit, Christopher Watts supposedly failed a polygraph test and subsequently confessed to murdering his wife. Although he does admit to killing his wife Shan'ann, he does say that Shan'ann killed the girls first, and that is why he flew into a rage and murdered his wife. Now, there's many things that I see during the polygraph. If you look at the videos, he is very monotone. He doesn't have any emotion, and in my opinion, that just seems masking. That's a very big masking technique. I'm not going to show any emotion, therefore, I'm not going to give off any emotion. It is later discovered that Chris Watts has been cheating on his wife with a co-worker named Neko Kessinger. Chris goes on to say that Chris had woken up Shan'ann and decided he wanted to talk to her about the separation. And I guess Shan'ann had said, you're never gonna see your kids again. And I guess that angered him. And so, according to the affidavit, Watts was having an affair and claimed to have asked for a separation from his wife. During the investigation, he claimed that Shan'ann had strangled the two girls in result of Chris asking for a separation. The authorities later found the bodies of the Watts family in an oil tank owned by Anadarko Petroleum, where Chris Watts was employed. They did, however, fire him the day of his arrest. Bella and Celeste were found hidden in two separate oil tanks. Now, I don't want to get this wrong, but I feel that it is important. The oil tanks were only about, I think it was like 8 inches wide. They found, I believe it was Bella's hair wrapped around the lid, meaning he had to shove those bodies into a small hole. And that, like, that is one of those things where it's not a rage thing. You have to like try to do that. You have to put effort into that. I don't know. How could you do that to your daughters? Shan'ann was buried in a shallow grave nearby with a white sheet just laid over her. Disposed like garbage. On August 21st, Watts was charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder, including an additional 1 count per child, cited as death to a child who had not attained 12 years of life. He was also charged with unlawful termination of a pregnancy and 3 counts of tampering with a deceased body. This has been connected and kind of looked at as a family annihilation case. And yeah, the only difference is Chris didn't wipe himself out either. He's currently on suicide watch, I believe, which I think that maybe, you know, I mean, hey, sometimes maybe we should just let him do it. But I digress. That's just my opinion. I mean, you innocently took the lives of beautiful people and one that didn't even have a chance yet to be a person. What gives you the right to live? I guess that's just me being cold-hearted and a bitch, but it's disgusting to me, and I don't understand how he can now say that he's a man of God and he has forgiven himself, or I don't even know if he says that he's forgiven himself, but he now says that he's like a messenger of God and he knows he can do good by talking about his experience of when he was taken over by this dark entity that made him do it, and yada 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 and all that bullshit. In an interview with Dr. Phil, Watts' lawyers claims that he confessed to killing Shan'ann after an argument about the separation. During the murder, Bella walked in. Watts then told his daughter that her mother was sick. He loaded Shanann's body into the back seat of his pickup truck, not the bed. And then he put his daughters without car seats, sitting on those seats while Shanann's lifeless body was just right beneath their dangling little feet. Chris Watts later confesses in a letter to Shan'ann Cathryn. She recently wrote a book called Letters from Christopher, which I read it, I own it. I actually really liked it. It was poorly written. Like, I feel like they didn't edit it very well, but it was a good read to me. It was not really new information, but it was a good read for me. I recommend it, honestly, if you can get past the poor editing. But anyway, he later confesses that he tried to actually smother the children first, and he claims that he believes that he actually succeeded in killing the girls twice. Chris says that he smothered his daughters first, and then later, after he had strangled Shan'ann, Bella walked in and noticed that they were alive, and he didn't understand how. That's when he decided to load them in the car with Shanann's body and drive them out to the oil field and, do what he did. Chris Watts pleaded guilty to the murders on November 6th. The death penalty was not put forward by the district attorney on request of Shanann's family. Shanann's family loved him. They loved him. And even after what happened, they didn't want to take his life. They even said that they don't believe that they have the right to choose life and death for somebody else. And that's huge. They just lost their daughter, their grandchildren. It's just, they're bigger people than I am, sorry. On November 19th, Watts was sentenced to 5 life sentences, 3 consecutive and 2 concurrent. He does not have the possibility of parole. He received an additional 48 years of unlawful termination of his wife's pregnancy and 36 years of charges in tampering with a deceased human body. Tongue twisters. On December 3rd, 2018, Chris was moved to an out-of-state location due to security reasons. December 5th, he arrived in the Dodge Correctional Institute, a maximum security prison in Wichita, Wisconsin, and to continue his life sentences. I think that this case is one of the strangest because Shan'ann was very social media oriented. She did a lot of live videos. She was very known to everybody, and she loved her family. She talked about how much she loved Chris constantly. Did Shan'ann have a big personality? Yeah. Do I think she was a little maybe controlling for Chris's passive being? Yeah, I think that she was a lot. But I don't ever think that Shan'ann was a bad person or abusive to Chris, how some people are saying that she was. I believe that Shan'ann really wanted to fix her marriage. She knew that things were going wrong. She felt that Chris was disconnecting and she wanted to fix it. And Chris had already put it in his mind that there was no fixing it. Chris Watts is going to be in jail for the rest of his life. And there's not much on Nicole Kessinger, the woman that he had the affair with. She supposedly has been fully cooperative and they have ruled her out as any type of involvement. I have my own personal opinion. I think that she did have some sort of involvement or knowledge just because she deleted all the text messages. And I don't know, the video of the neighbor catching Chris unloading the body or whatever, it looks like there's 2 people there. I don't know. I just feel like she knows more than she's letting on. I think that it's super important that we acknowledge how Chris Watts was not one of these people that was a charming, handsome, persuasive kind of serial killer-esque type person like we normally see. I really hope I did an okay job, my first true crime video. Do more research on Chris Watts yourself. It's a very interesting case. And please, All right, guys, thank you so much for watching with me. And until next time, I will talk to you later. Bye.